Adam, for people who haven't come across your work yet, what kind of stories are you telling?
So I have my own independent cinematic universe called the Nexus Universe, and it kind of just goes through a wide range of different themes and genres. So at the moment, I've done zombies and espionage so far.
So you're not just making one-off shorts then, like you're building a whole world with the Nexus universe. So
Yeah.
when did that become a plan?
The original thing of New Nations was it started off as a comic that I made when I was like 12 called Survivor Story. I didn't really delve too deep into it, but when I made the first season of New Nations, it wasn't even supposed to be a season. It was just supposed to be like a three-part short thing. And then I think when we got to the third one, I was like, I really like this, and I'd like to expand it, but I didn't really know how. And I had this prop which my uncle gave me. He works for Ardmore Studios, and I thought this could be the key to the big story. So I kind of wrote it around this being like an artifact, and that starts the apocalypse, and there's all these different groups that are looking to get it. So this is kind of what started the whole thing.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. It's always good to have something to base your story and mythology around, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, like, what made you think bigger than the single project, and starting to connect these stories together?
I think it was actually because I was able to do it. Like the scale that we're doing now is completely different as to what I was doing then. Like we made the first season during I think it was around 2018, 2019, with like just a phone. Me and my friends after school would just record. Um I think what helped us though is around the area that I used to live in Lusk, there was loads of abandoned buildings. Like we had Knockdrum, which was this huge mansion connected to a forest, and I had my friend's farm. And even now, like we have a massive campsite that we film in, but it makes the show feel a lot bigger than it would be if we didn't have those locations. Plus, I have a lot of the props of my own. I have my own costumes. I have the makeup. So even when I just had a phone back then, it was quite easy to um, build it up because when you're looking at it on screen, you see the costumes; they look really cool. It makes it look more believable, if that makes sense. Because I've seen other people's shorts, or even some of the stuff I did in college, where it's like the typical. There's a guy with a coffee cup and he's depressed, and it's like you don't really get inspired from things like that.
So true. I used to run a film festival here in Carlow,
Yeah,
and the amount of depressed Joes that we got sitting on a park bench or in a
yeah,
local coffee shop was, yeah,
it's,
yeah. No, it's great that you're thinking outside the box. So you're based up in Dublin and you're coming up through that indie route. Um, I suppose for people that are coming up through the indie route, what's the biggest reality check you've had over the last few
most people
months?
don't care. Like the general public, they do not care. Most of the film industry, they do not care what you're doing. Like I'd say one of the hardest things I've come across so far is scheduling, which is fair because we have a lot of people and we only record on Sundays. But apart from that, it's locations. Like we have a lot of locations for the main part of the show, like with the apocalyptic scenes. But for episode two right now, it's an entire flashback episode. And we were looking for like medical centers or like hospital rooms or even community centers. Nobody wants to hear any of it. They just hear filming and they want a bit of money. So that's the reality check that a lot of people get. But I think once you start making stuff, like for me, we're nearly done episode two now. I've seen way more people trying to join the show, because they can actually see me making it. Because I think we started pre-production on this season in January 2023, so it was around a 3 year pre-production cycle, and it was really hard to try find actors and crew. But once we actually started making the show, and I wasn't just talking about it, people said, "Oh, this looks pretty cool," and I could show photos from the set. I could show the makeup and what we're doing there, and it's like an avalanche. It just snowballs into something huge.
Yeah, and that's what made it anyway. Is all about it's about filmmakers and not
Yeah.
film talkers, because this industry is full of people that
Oh,
talk about making this, that, and the other, and 50 years
yeah.
down the road, they're still talking about making this, that, or the
Yeah.
other.
And do you know what? There's so much hate in the film industry in Ireland, like across all these Facebook groups and WhatsApp groups. I would get like so many. messages from people or people trying to be sarcastic and hating on what I was doing. Like me and one of the production leaders for my show, Wanda, she was putting up posts looking for makeup artists, and the amount of hate we would get, and all the people that were hating on us don't do anything. And I'm like, okay, fair enough if you had a bit of criticism about how I'm operating my show. Tell me what have you done? How can you give me some advice? And they never have anything because they don't do anything. They just sit there and complain about everyone else, or you have loads of people being like, "Oh, I have an idea for the script," and you never see it. You never see it put to the screen. You just hear conversations all the time, and that's why I don't really go to a lot of networking events, because a lot of people that you do meet at those networking events, from what I've seen, they just talk and they don't actually want to make. And we had a good few people dropping out of the first episode because they realized that they can't keep up with the people that are actually, in it for the long haul. So now that we're done episode one, we have a core group of cast and crew, and no one's going anywhere. We're all happy enough to just actually just make it instead of just talking.
Yeah, no, when I started in the industry, it was all about collaboration, but now it seems to be, yeah, I'll collaborate as long as you're paying me. You know,
Yeah,
it's there's no and especially when you're starting out, you have to do those freebies to get a
yeah.
name for yourself and get yourself out there. So a lot of filmmakers talk about scale, and you're actually chasing it. So what's the hardest part of making something feel bigger than the resources that you have behind it?
Ooh, I would say making something feel like it's been there for years, because the one of the main sets we have for this season, like, we split it up into different districts. So there's four districts in the show. District one is a campsite with like a mansion attached to it. So we found a massive camp, um, but it felt very hard to make it feel lived in. So we had to get loads of extras, any prop and costume that we can think of, and then the main thing that we built a 13-foot gate. So me and one of my producers, Sam, we went around all the local area looking for pallets, and we spent a year while we were doing pre-production just building this gate. Every day that we had a day off, rain, sun or shine, we were out in Sam's garden at first building this gate, um, just making all sorts of props. Like, one of the other characters, Jamie, he has a missing hand, so we built like a whole prosthetic for his missing hand that goes up all around his stomach. So that kind of stuff makes the world feel lived in, is just making it look like something that you wouldn't have seen before. Because that's what I keep thinking of when I'm making the show with all the characters or the sets, and I'm like, okay, have I seen this before? And if I haven't, put it in, you know. And then the second district is a farm that's called Doyle Grange. So that's my friend's farm that we're filming in. We've yet to get District 3 and 4, but it's just kind of, I feel very lucky because a lot of the sets that we do have just comes from asking people, like either people that I know or just putting stuff up online. And a lot of people, when I started the season, were like, oh, but you can't do this, you can't do that. How are you going to do that? And I'm like, well, if you don't ask people, you don't get it. You have to ask. Like, a lot of people, if you just ask nicely or you just explain what you're doing, most people don't have any problem with offering you a place to record.
Yeah, and that's it. And we found that with on Farley, my last feature film, we needed a big, big forest. And
Well,
if you go to the usual um, forest people with psychology and that, it's all about, how long are you going to be? Well, you can't film there and you can film here and you can't use that bit. So um, a contact of mine that lives in County Leitch here, he had, I think it's 1,700 acres of a natural Irish wood forest. And he said, yeah, as long as you leave it the way you find it, work away. And
look,
true to what you're saying, it's about asking and being honest and being upfront. And
yeah, because like, even for the next or the past couple of weeks of filming, like, me and my co-producer Sam, we were looking for a lot of different places to film because they're in flashback scenes, and I was thinking like, oh, maybe we can just film in these places and not tell people, or just kind of make it feel smaller than what it actually is. And that actually came to the benefit of me of just being honest, because we were looking to film in a community center, and they wanted us to pay a lot of money, and I was trying to explain to them that we don't have any funding yet at all. And some of the people in the team were trying to downplay what we were doing. I'm like, no, just be honest, because if we get there and they're confused, or they're like, what the heck is this? Like, why is there these big cameras or makeup stuff? I'm just always honest. Like, here, look, this is what we're doing. We'll leave it how we found it. We have a really professional crew. If you don't mind that, then that's not a problem with me.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's the way to do it. Look, everyone will give you a lift up if you
Yeah,
ask and if you're honest. Exactly. So, New Nation season two, it's obviously a serious lift from the first one.
yeah.
How,
You.
how do you even begin to manage something with so many moving parts? Like you're talking about four districts there.
Yeah,
Did I see a crew and cast of 60 or 70 people, something like that?
129 we have at the moment.
Wow.
Yeah, it's mental. Um, to be honest, like pretty much what happened was I made the first season, and because it was a group of friends, and I wanted to make it into this cinematic universe. Of course, they weren't gonna want to continue on for years and years. When I just knew them from school. They did other things, so I was like, right, I really like this world, and some of the cast members wanted to stay, but I said I have to continue this. Like I felt like I didn't get to tell the story that I wanted to tell. Like, of course, in the first season there were some great moments, but I was kind of like, you know what? After 2021, when we made the last film, I was like, I want to just, you know, go down for a little bit, just take as long as I need to just lay the foundations of making a professional production. And I had no idea how I was going to do it because even the people I was with in college, they were film talkers, as you talk about. So I felt like I didn't actually know anybody that was interested. So I was just going on Facebook and WhatsApp and every casting group that you can think of for crew and cast, and I just keep putting out over and over again with clips. I think we got a couple million views from the clips on TikTok and Instagram, and just being relentless with it. Like I was like, I know these clips aren't what the show's going to look like, but here's just a rough idea of what we've made so far. And thankfully, over the course of 3 years, people were just applying, and then a lot of these sets that I mentioned were just kind of a string of luck. Like me and my girlfriend were just walking around in the local area. We discovered this huge campsite. Like everything in it is built for real, and I was like, "Oh my god, we have to get permission for this." And then my DOP Daniel emailed me a couple of months ago saying that he wanted to take on the camera and audio side of things, and he has loads of equipment. He has so much skill, and then he's been managing the camera and audio side of things. And then we found Wanda, who deals with all of the makeup team, and we have Gwen as well, who deals with the extras. So we've like it seems like a lot of moving parts, but when you have a really good team of people around you to kind of tackle each area as you go along and you build it bigger and bigger, it gets quite manageable. So now that we've finished the first episode, we're on episode 2 now. It kind of it's like a machine. It's just different cogs in it. Like we all know which comes from where, and we've squashed any little problems we've had so far. So it seems like we're just kind of keeping the ship afloat.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Um,
I forgot to mention another thing that we did at the beginning, which I think could be really useful for anyone if they ever want to do anything to this scale, is when people are joining the show, apart from the actors, always give the crew an option to dip out if they want to, because I know like we're going to be filming this from November last year to June next year just for 8 episodes. I know not everyone's going to be interested in that, so anytime a producer joins, an AD, a makeup person, I'm always just like, look, I know it's a long time. If you even just want to do half an episode, if you want to do just one episode or even two, there's no strings attached. You can pop in whenever you want. And I think that's kind of worked to our benefit. Like a lot of the crew rotate for the show. Like we have a couple of camera operators, I think like 5 or 6 of them. They rotate every few weeks, so it kind of keeps it easier on us. Plus the in the show, the characters, it's kind of split into two groups, so we can rotate even the cast every week. So it's a lot more manageable. Because when you hear 129 people, 8 episodes for a year and a half, it sounds colossal. But when you break it down into just little groups of people that they only need to come once or twice a month, it's quite manageable.
yeah, I'm just thinking of the food bill and the pizzas. Feeding 129 people, wow.
Yeah,
Chaos. Right. You're with the Nexus world, it's a massively ambitious indie project. What tends to break first? Time, money, energy, people?
I think trying to get cast to can do the whole thing. Like So in the Nexus Universe in total, it starts off with a trilogy of films that we're going to make. So the first one's already done, called Southbound. That's about like the artifacts here and all these different artifacts that have different abilities, and kind of the world ends like this skull breaks open, and that creates the apocalypse. So it's kind of leads into that. Then you have a prequel season called Before the New Nation. That's going to be the thing we're going to make next, about like how the Gardaí fell and the military in Ireland, and then it leads directly into 3 seasons of New Nation. So it is quite a long project. I think in total, I'm estimating with the slate that we have, it's going to be around 12 years in total for the entire thing. So we're in around 8 years at the moment. A lot of that waiting around was, 2 years because of COVID and production for this season. So I'm not really rushed to it, but I do know it is quite hard to find people that are willing to do it for so long. Like, some of the characters aren't in every project, so they might have to wait a couple of years until they're needed again. But I think with the scale that we're at now, I'm hoping that we can try to get some sort of funding or distribution with this season. I don't see why we wouldn't, because the scale of it now is getting quite big, and it looks like a proper TV show.
And have you plans to go beyond season two?
Yeah, so we have 3 seasons. I would love to make loads more seasons, but I'm gonna keep it to 3 if people are willing to do more. I kind of have this idea that after season 2, there's a huge time skip in between 2 and 3. So after 3 comes, if I ever want to do some stuff in between that with different characters, I can kind of go back into that. But I know, because this is such a well, it's large scale, but in the funding side of things, it's quite small. I'm just gonna keep the 3. And if people are happy to do more, I'm willing to do more.
Like you've mentioned a 12-year running time on the project.
Yeah,
Um, so I suppose you've obviously learned lessons over the last 7 or 8 years that you've been at this.
yeah.
What have you learned about getting cast and crew to buy into the project?
Um, I think you just need to sit down with people and just kind of be real with them. Just explain to them what the whole thing is. There's no need to be like, oh, this is just a short. This might be for a few months. Like, I told everyone straight up, like, look, this is no funding. We don't have a penny to put into anything. Um, this is the script. Have a read through of it, and I said this would be your arc for multiple years. And I just tell people, like, do you want to do this? And the main thing I try to get out of people is just honesty, because I've had people in the past that be like, yeah, 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 I'm into that, no problem. And then they just either don't show up, or their performance isn't great, and you can just tell that they're not invested in it. So I try to just give it out straight to people, like, are you in? Yes or no? I know it is a big ask, but because the scale of it is getting bigger now. It's not just a couple of friends after school with a phone. Like, there's 129 cast and crew, so you're not just wasting my time. If people aren't invested into it properly, you're wasting everyone's time. So, um, I think as well, once other people are joining the cast and crew and they start to see how much other people care while we're filming, it makes them want to care more. If that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're buying in by association almost, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
because we're filming every week, like most of the cast and crew see each other at least twice a month. We've created a really great community, and you can see people having a really good time when we're filming. And people are kind of using this as well to network, and people are making other projects with the cast and crew that we have, which is quite cool. So it kind of feels like a big family at the moment that's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So what part of the process then do you think that indie filmmakers most underestimate when they decide to go at this really large scale?
Oh, for me, I think it's just the scheduling. Like, apart from the locations, like, of course we've had some hiccups with that in the past trying to get locations, but I think scheduling is genuinely the hardest thing. Like, if I look at every project that I've ever done, scheduling is always the biggest issue. Like, especially now, because we're going into episode 3, the big cast that we have is split into 2 groups. So if any of those 12 people are not free on any particular day, it messes up the whole thing. Plus, certain locations are only free certain days. And then we have a massive group of makeup artists. They're not always free every day because some are better at certain things than others. Like, some of the makeup artists can only do like touch ups, or like we had one of the characters being sick, but then some other makeup artists might be able to do the zombie makeup, like the big prosthetics. So, and then also trying to get the camera crew organized as well. The scheduling part of it is quite hard. So, I guess the best thing that I found to deal with that is just doing it every Sunday, because at least people know, like, all right, it's only this day a week. I don't have to plan a whole lot of stuff. And just giving people months and months notice in advance. Like, it takes us around 10 weeks to make each episode. So I try to give people like a rough timeline of, right, roughly we're going to finish episode 3 by this week. I'll need you for this many days of filming. So yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, it really has to be like a military operation from what you're saying with scheduling and making sure everyone is available and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so, so I presume while you're making this, you're also building your audience out there.
Yeah.
How hard has that been to get them to buy into such a long running project?
Um, I feel like that it's quite hard because when people look at stuff online, like let's say someone's going on TikTok and they're seeing stuff from Marvel or Star Wars or Harry Potter, or any of these big IP names, when they're seeing a clip from my show, they're not likely to stay on the clip that long or whatever video that they're watching, because they don't know what it is. And the amount of comments that I get on certain videos that I make being like, "What is this?" So it's always the thing of like, if anyone sees a project from a big IP that already exists, instantly they know, oh, that's this, that's that. Nobody knows what this show is. So it's kind of like a thing of every time that you're posting something, you have to put it in your mind like, okay, if I was coming across this and I had never seen this before, how can I engage this person into coming on with it? So you really have to think about the hook and how it's edited and make it pop, because it's quite hard. And then also, I've noticed that I think across all socials, I have about 30,000 followers, which is quite great. I'm very thankful for that. But I have noticed, like, before we started production for this season, the viewership just tanked because I hadn't made a film in 4 years. So a lot of the followers that I had on socials were kind of like classed as ghost followers, where they weren't interacting with anything. The views were really low. And then we started this season, and one of the first posts we got on one of the first days of filming got like 80,000 views. And I was like, oh my God, we're back. Yeah, it's great to see. But yeah, it's hard because I think I've always said this to the cast and crew. I think I see this show as kind of like an IP, like a product. The longer we make this, the more valuable it's going to be, not only to people trying to invest in it, like maybe distribution folks or even viewers, because the more that we release, the more chance that we have for people to latch onto it, being like, "Oh, what's this?" and let me watch more. So the more that there is to watch, the more that we have to market. Um, but I think when this season comes out, one of the main things that will propel people to watch it is clips on TikTok and YouTube Shorts. I kind of have like a formula in my head of how I'm going to do that. And then our plan is to do like a premiere for the first 2 episodes, um, and invite people to watch it that would potentially invest, or even like Joe.e or any of these news outlets, to kind of get the word out, not just on socials but in real life as well.
So leading on from that, then what's your plan for distribution? Like you have season one is on YouTube, is it?
Yeah, we have season 1 and the first Southbound movie on YouTube, but because they're such small scale compared to what we're doing now, I might just leave them where they are. And this season 2 itself, it's kind of a soft reboot, because I knew it would be such a long time from like what 7 years ago since the last season came out. I didn't expect everyone to watch the first season, so this season is kind of like a jumping on point. So if people watch this season for the first time and they had never watched anything else I've ever made, it still makes sense, and they can still enjoy it. So I kind of have that idea with the distribution. So each project, you can watch it on its own. So if someone discovers maybe the next Southbound movie, they won't need to have watched the previous ones. So that's kind of my idea, is to kind of pitch it to a distribution as like, all right, this is kind of like a fresh beginning, but there is previous stuff that people want to see. So my idea would be, because the previous projects weren't to the scale that we've done now, I think I want to finish the first 2 episodes, because I kind of see the season as like blocks. So like episode 1 and 2 is kind of connected together. Then 3, 4, 5, and then 6, 7, 8 are kind of like in chunks. That's how I kind of want to release it. So episode 1 is kind of like a reintroduction of all the characters from season 1, and it introduces like the main plot and drama. And then episode 2 is an entire backstory episode of one of the new characters, Amara. So I feel like the first two kind of fit well together, and I want to kind of shop around. I haven't really thought much of exactly where we're going to do it, but I just want to get the first episode or the first two done, have them edited, have them ready to go, and then me and one of my producers will go around and see what we can do with it.
And you've started post production on 1 and 2, have you?
No, we're building the editing team at the moment. So we have 2 video editors, 1 audio editor. We have a composer as well who joined the project, Sean Callaghan. He's going to be making original music and trailer songs and themes for certain characters. So, yeah, my idea is because each episode of the show has a little bit of flashbacks, I was thinking with the editing team, we can kind of split them into two. Like half the team focuses on the flashback scenes and then the other half focuses on the apocalyptic stuff. So I mean, I could start editing it now, but I definitely do want to build a team, kind of like how we've done with the camera or the makeup team. Just have like almost, as you said, like a military operation of just like a sequence of everyone knows exactly what they're going to edit. Like we have people focusing on the audio side of things as well. So, yeah.
So what's the time scale then? You'll be finished episode 8 by when? What's
We're thinking, well, episode 5, we're thinking finishing that around December 20th this year. So it'll be just episode 6, 7, and 8. So I'm thinking around summer next year, around June, I'd say. But my idea would be like episode 2, we're about to finish that. So my idea would be when we start episode 3, by the time we're done episode 3, episode 1 will be ready to go. I don't really know what the story is going to be at the moment with distribution. Like I would like to just release it on YouTube, but I feel like that's a bit of a waste, because there's so much people working on it, and I've seen so many filmmakers put years and years into a project, and they just dump it on YouTube. It gets a couple thousand views, and it just stays there. I feel like because it's going to be growing in this big cinematic universe, I want it to be, I don't know. I feel like it on YouTube it's great, and I've put all my previous projects on YouTube, but I feel like you need to put it in the right direction of the right people to see it. And I have this feeling, I don't know if this is true, this is just from my experience, you don't see a lot of people watching movies on YouTube. Like people wouldn't naturally go onto YouTube and find my show unless they know it exists already. That's kind of why I wanted to be on a streaming service so they can naturally find it. Like I don't know, on whatever streaming service it will be on.
where would you like to see it end up?
I don't want to say anything too big, but I would like to say something like RTE Player. Like for me, I've always loved Love Hate. I don't know if you've ever seen Love Hate.
Yeah.
One of my close friends showed it to me a few years ago, and I've always loved to try get to the level of that. That's kind of like my goal right now, and I feel like we're kind of getting close to the level of Love Hate. So, my idea is not to go global with this show at the moment. Like if I could just make this like a cornerstone of Irish TV, that would make me as happy as can be, to be honest.
Be happy out, says you. They So you have the 3 seasons. Have you plans for projects after that? Or are you going to stay in
Oh,
the Nexus universe?
I have a couple of like smaller plans with the Nexus Universe afterwards. I have like an idea to make like an anthology show, just like little bits and pieces of different moments during the Nexus Universe. I have like a horror movie idea called Babushka about one of the artifacts. Like each layer they open it, it's like someone's psyche goes into it. I have some ideas for other big projects later on after that. Like I'd like to make like an Irish mythology show. That'd be something I'd be interested in, like a long running show about that. Because I feel like that hasn't been done before. Well, from what I've seen, or else maybe a western, but that's way in the future.
Bit down the road, yeah. Look,
Yeah.
Adam, that's brilliant. Thanks for coming on, made it anyway. And
Yep.
you certainly are a filmmaker and not a film talker, which is
Oh, 100%. Like I felt like that for a while, a bit of a film talker, like in the pre-production for this, but hopefully I've gave some insight into people to do what I'm doing, because I know like I feel really appreciative that I have all these amazing people helping me with this show. I wouldn't be able to do anything without it. Like even if one part of the puzzle would be gone, the show wouldn't exist. So I'm just really thankful that I have this great cast and crew. and hopefully people that are watching this can create something just as amazing.
Cool. So where do people find you if they want to follow you on social and that?
So I'm just Adam Smith Productions across everything: YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, anything. I'm on it.
Brilliant. Adam,
Yeah,
thanks for coming on. Made it anyway.
thank you so much.
Best of luck with Nexus and
Cheers. Thank
season
you so
two.
much. Bye bye.